Hey everybody, Kevin here from ChangeWorks Interactive, and welcome to the podcast Changing Gears, where we attempt to coach and inspire and motivate by taking a dive into the lives of some very interesting people. This show is about making personal and professional change. My name is Kevin Walbelig. I am the host for today. I'm a registered psychotherapist, and I run a company called ChangeWorks Interactive. So let's get into it. Today we welcome Dan Hawes. Dan, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Now let me tell you a little bit about Dan. Dan's a very good friend of mine. I've known Dan for probably, must have been over 30 years. And Dan is a person that I would call a serial entrepreneur. He is one of Canada's leading independent digital media producers. In fact, he's produced over $75 million of animated programming. His programming includes things like television programming and movies, games, web, mobile apps, lots of stuff. His company is called ToonRush. And he produced a show called Chili Beach starting in 2003. Which has been aired in over 120 countries. Dan studied at the University of Waterloo, and most recently is a professor at Ryerson University. He's completing his PhD in cognitive science with the hopes of designing better virtual reality experiences. So soon I'm going to have to call him not just my friend, but I'll have to call him Dr. Dan. Dan, welcome to the show.
All right, great to be here, Kev.
Dan, just thinking about the show today, and thinking over the last 30 plus years that I've known you, your I guess your career course hasn't been a straight line. There's been a lot of different things that you've done. How did you get to the point where you're at the place where you are now, and you're designing virtual reality experiences? Where did you start, and sort of how did you get to where you're going?
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to understand that in hindsight, because you do a lot of different things, and I think that's probably characteristic of what a lot of people are going to be experiencing today. I've heard there are going to be 12 different careers that the average person coming into the workforce might experience. So I was probably just a little ahead of that curve, trying new things. But when I look back at what was common, like what it was that was driving me, everything seemed to be about creating digital experiences and content. So everything I did really was motivated by doing things that are creative and using technology. And that's, I think, what drives me. I like that sort of confluence of that and the business element as well. I think that because that domain is was fairly undefined, then you could do it more effectively as an entrepreneur. So that was interesting. So the internet is very much a digital medium that uses creativity and technology. And so everything that I did, I think, was designed about creating digital experiences that that entertain people, educate people, whether it's a game or an animated TV show. That's sort of the commonality I've found.
Well, I first met you when you were, back in the day, you're working for Nortel Networks, and the evolution of where that has gone to has been, you must look back on that sometimes and think, oh, wow, what a change.
Yeah, it's been quite a change since then. I think it was actually before Nortel Networks, by the way, but
okay.
It's when you said 30, it's the plus that concerns me, 30 plus. But we won't get into some of the shenanigans that happened before that. But anyway, yeah, that was quite a time, yeah. And Nortel was a great company. It's unfortunate they're not around today, but Nortel was one of these companies that genuinely cared about people. It was a great technology company. They were innovators. I think they sort of went the way of Wall Street at one point and sort of crashed, which is so unfortunate. But it was a great place to be with a lot of people. They had a great sense of community. They were a great Canadian company. So it's unfortunate they're not still here.
Very good. Very good. What would you say, Dan? Like, this is a program that's kind of geared towards helping people that are, maybe it's some validation that I'm in the right field, or maybe there's students that are looking at getting into some of the work that you do. What would you say some of the biggest challenges are? Let's say it is a young person that is, started getting into this field. What kind of obstacles would you say that they have to overcome, or knowledge maybe that they should have so that they can get into the field?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's tougher for young people today because things are changing so quickly. The door could open up for a business, and that could be done in 5 to 10 years. I mean, the rate of change of businesses, it's unparalleled and unprecedented. So I think I would first say, find something that you really like start from your heart, find something that you love doing, and then learn as fast and as feverishly as you can, because you're going to have to keep learning. So the sooner you get on the curve and start to realize that you're going to have to learn for your life regardless, because things are changing quickly. Like, a technology that we might deploy 3 years ago to do an animation or a game, project could be obsolete in 3 years because there's something way better. So you have to basically unlearn and then relearn a new way of approaching problems. And that is very common, whereas 35, 40 years ago, people started, they used a set of tools, and that tool took you for 20, 25 years, in many cases, a career. So there's a need to be flexible, be dynamic, and be comfortable with change.
Yeah, I think looking at your career, Dan, you've obviously you've sort of really immersed yourself, probably over just the last few years, right? I mean, you're working, doing all these different things, and then went to the University of Waterloo, and then decided after that you would extend your learning experiences through Carleton. That learning must for you just be so important. You're always learning new things, and I guess it extends beyond just the academic or what you're learning personally. I guess it's learning to interact with people that might be investors, or like you say, the new IT that's coming out all the time.
Yeah, constantly. I think I was motivated to learn, partly because I was just curious, which is a good thing. I think that was one of the characteristics that I think is an asset for me, is just general curiosity. But I think part of it was motivated by sort of fear of cognitive decline as we age, and willingness to try and learn new things. But I think just there's a recognition that you just have to get on that learning cycle, because it's going to help you survive. And rather than being behind the curve, rather than being fearful, it just puts you in a position where you're a bit more proactive, where you can manage change and you get out a little bit ahead of that story. So that's worked for me.
For somebody who doesn't understand virtual reality, Dan, how would you define that? Like, what is virtual reality?
So there are a lot of definitions of virtual reality, but virtual reality is really a reality that you enter or you experience that is completely immersive. I mean, people talk about non-immersive virtual reality or desktop virtual reality, but real virtual reality is it's an experience that you enter into and you gain a sense of really being in a different world. Everything around you is visually presented as if it is another world. And it's, for those of you who have tried it, and you've tried one of the virtual reality headsets, it really is compelling. And it's hard for me to explain it. I think people really just have to experience it, and you'll have that aha moment, because it really is, compelling.
How would the average person get a chance to experience that, like to experience virtual reality?
The great thing is virtual reality 10 years ago would have probably cost people, cost an institution $50,000 or $100,000 a year, probably 10 times that, the previous decade. But now you can buy a headset for $400 Canadian, the Oculus Quest and experience amazing programs. Like it's really unbelievable what's available. And when people realize you can buy a $10 program in virtual reality that could be life-changing, that could work as a therapeutic device, that could entertain you, could educate you. So it's an interesting time because never in the history of mankind was that power available to people.
That's awesome. So Oculus Quest is the way to go. Let me ask you another question. You're a busy guy. You've always been a busy guy. How do you manage your own stress? You know, more on the personal level. How do you go about doing that, Dan? Because you're busy. I'm sure you work lots of hours in a day, and I imagine that your life is pretty stressful at times. So what do you do? How do you manage that?
You know, I try not to think about the stresses and the things that are looming. I try to think about what I'm trying to create and what I'm trying to become. So when you're focused on that, when you're focused on what you want to create, the experience you want to create, or how you need to develop in order to create better experiences, then you're less reactive. So I would say it's not about running away from anything. It's more about thinking about what I'm trying to create. And that as soon as I'm able to immerse myself in that thought process, the problems go away. And that you can immerse yourself. You can do that as you write or as you create videos or whatever. But it's just being able to lose yourself in what you're doing. And that works for me.
Can virtual reality help with that, with coping or with, whether it's meditation or, some of these forms of practice that people really get good progress with? Can you do that in virtual reality?
Yeah, it's phenomenal what you can do in virtual reality. There are a number of applications already available to consumers where you can go in and you can do meditation, you can do mindfulness, you can do nature walks. I've done a bit of research on the effects of virtual reality gaming, and we've discovered that that has a great impact on anxiety reduction and actually works to improve cognitive capability. So not that it makes you smarter per se, but what it does is it works to sort of clear the brain and put you into, makes your brain more available because it puts you into a different state.
That's very exciting, and you think of all the applications that could come out of that. That's really a great field to be working in, Dan. Okay, thank you, Dan. We're going to wrap up. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. To our listeners, we're going to put Dan's contact information on our website. And please continue to tune in to ChangeWorks Interactive. We will also have some information for you, and we'll post the interview on the site as well. And if you want to subscribe to following ChangeWorks, you can do so. Until next time, thank you very much, and thanks for Dan Hawes for joining us today.
It was an honor being here, Kev.
Okay, good seeing you, Dan.